For more on what's driving these huge numbers to the polls, we are joined now by Mosheh Oinounou, president of Mo Digital and former executive producer of CBS Evening News. Mosh, great to have you on. Let's get to it.
So good to be with you, Jill.
Yeah, so good to see you. What are some of the motivations to go and vote for a Trump supporter versus a Biden supporter?
Sure. Well, it comes down to a few things. Number one, no matter what, economy continues to be the biggest issue for a lot of folks. When I talk to folks on Instagram and have been talking to voters in a variety of the swing states, what it comes down to for many of them, who've actually, some of whom have been struggling with their decision, is it's about Trump's policies versus Biden's personality. And ultimately, that's what even some who tell me they're making a decision today, it's going to come down to.
Okay, I want to get to the elusive undecided voters in a minute, but 538, they ran 40,000 simulations, and they're giving Joe Biden a really significant edge when it comes to this path to victory, even more so than we saw last time around with Hillary Clinton. But the polling we know in 2016 was just so off. So had there been changes to the polling that will make it a bit more accurate this time around? The president, again, has a 10% chance of pulling off an upset. Do you think we're going to see a repeat of what we saw, in 2016 in just terms of the polling being so off?
Well, for the sake of the polling industry, I hope not. In talking to a few pollsters, this is what 2016 came down to. Them not being able to effectively calculate the number of non-college educated white voters in the upper Midwest. When you actually look at 2016, the national polls were pretty accurate. 47 of the states were pretty accurate. It was the underpolled, undercalculated states, kind of Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Now, when it comes to 2020, and by the way, we're all living in this kind of 2016 PTSD where what should be clear is that in 2016, Trump had a 30% chance of winning, a 1 in 3 chance. While it was minimized by folks and minimized by the media, he had a 1 in 3 chance. Now it's 10%, but I think we're all living in 2016, so we're really kind of talking about that 10% chance. But in talking to pollsters, I think that they have recalibrated their polling. They've told me as much. And by the way, we should break it down regionally. While a polling error in the upper Midwest in Pennsylvania probably will help Trump, a polling error historically in Texas and Arizona typically undervalues Democrats. So you just have to think about it in kind of a more complex way.
I just want to mention quickly, we're watching Joe Biden arrive to vote himself in Scranton, Pennsylvania. That's Joe Biden there on the screen. Okay, Mosh, back to the undecided voters. It seems like Joe Biden and President Trump are just so vastly different, so it is hard to imagine that anyone is still undecided, but you do have an Instagram account. You get to talk directly to your followers on that. And I know that you asked who is still undecided and why so, and I'm just so curious, what did they tell you?
So this was about 2 weeks ago, right? So 2 weeks out from the biggest election of our lifetime, where we're going to see an incredible record voter turnout. It turns out that I spoke with dozens and dozens of folks who, by the way, represent the 3 to 5% of Americans. So when you look at the voting numbers, that's about 15 million to 20 million Americans who were undecided as of a week ago. Bottom line for them, it comes down, and many of them, by the way, are 2016 Trump voters who are a little disenchanted and a little disconcerted with what the president, his personality. They do support his policies, but there's a nervous feeling they have about the unknown, right? Biden and particularly Kamala Harris. And so some of the criticism that the president has leveled against Biden, they have internalized. And so they're kind of weighing the situation of, I like some of Trump's policies. I don't love the way he conducts himself, but I'm nervous about the unknown. And that's fundamentally what they've told me about how they'll make their decision.
So fascinating. I know that as well, we're so focused on the presidential election, but of course there's all of these down ballot, races as well. You spoke to a bunch of senior Republican sources. What are they telling you?
So a couple things. In particular, their focus is very much on the Sun Belt. So this is Georgia, North Carolina, Texas. The 4 fastest growing areas of the country: Phoenix, Dallas, Houston, Atlanta. The Republicans are concerned about what they're seeing for their party. They think the House, they'll lose between 10 and 20 seats. And the Senate, that it's, while Mitch McConnell said he's got a 50-50 shot of losing the Senate, they think it's actually much more likely. In particular, Georgia is a state where they're seeing an incredible turnout. And there's this kind of evolution happening in the voter makeup there that's evolved over the last few years. And so they believe that actually, both at the down ballot level, down ticket level, but also at the presidential level, we might not even need to be talking about Pennsylvania tomorrow, because Biden might have Georgia locked at this point.
Wow. So they're basically predicting a blue wave.
Yes, we'll go with a small wave, several foot wave. I don't know how big the wave will be, but in the South, they're concerned about some of the numbers they're seeing.
And just back to tonight and kind of these big swing states, what are you going to be watching for specifically as these results come in? For those of us who have to get up early tomorrow, or perhaps don't want to spend all night watching, is there any indication early on that this could go either way?
Sure. One of the things that will be nice is that both Florida, North Carolina, Texas, even Arizona, it closes a little bit later. They pre-count all their absentee and early votes. So when all the Florida numbers are out, most of Florida closes at 7 p.m. The Panhandle closes at 8 p.m. We'll know almost 80% of Florida's vote at the time of closing. There are a couple places to look at: the Tampa area, Pinellas County. Obama won that twice. Trump won that last time. If Biden is showing a lot of strength in Tampa, St. Pete, that's an indication of a potential semi-blue wave. If Trump is holding strong there, we could be in for a long night, and you'll know that you'll wake up in the morning potentially not knowing the result. The same goes for Sumter County, the home of the Villages, where Biden has shown some strength with the plus 65 voter. Again, that's a place where Trump will win. The question is, will he win it by 35 points like last time? The suburbs of Raleigh, the suburbs of Houston, Harris County, again, we'll have a pretty good indication by the time we hit 10 p.m. Eastern tonight of where those are going, and the way the suburbs go in the East is probably the way the suburbs will go in the West.
All right, Moshe, great insight, and I'm kind of giggling that you said airier, because that's how my parents, who have very strong Long Island or Brooklyn accents, would say it. So you've been in New York, I think, too long, Moshe.
As a Chicagoan, I guess, I'm letting my people down, but I'm gone native.
All right, Mosheh Oinounou, president of Mo Digital and former executive producer of CBS Evening News. Great to have you on. Appreciate it. Coming up.